Night Has Come takes the schoolyard Mafia game, removes all the harmless lying, and leaves teenagers voting one another into graves. Its students make so many panicked decisions that common sense dies almost as quickly as the class, but that cruelty is exactly what makes the trap work. A group of second-year students from class 2 to 3 at Yale High School are traveling to a remote youth center for a school retreat. They laugh, argue, and play games on the bus, unaware that the moment they began this trip, they entered a nightmare with no visible exit. Lee Yoon-so wakes from a disturbing dream before they arrive. In it, a long-haired girl falls into a swimming pool while Yoon-so's classmates stand nearby like corpses. When the bus finally reaches the center late in the day, the building looks strangely familiar. Yoon-so recognizes parts of it from the dream, but she tells herself that all retreat centers probably look alike. Their teacher receives a weak phone signal and leaves to meet students from another class. Before going, he asks Class President Kim Joon-hee and Vice President Kim So-mi to keep everyone under control. Once he disappears, the students discover that the building has no cellular service and no working internet. Even the staff seem to be gone. The lights suddenly cut out. A white figure appears in the middle of the lobby, and one of the athletic students throws a basketball at it. The ghost turns out to be class clown Hyo Yul wearing a costume. Instead of apologizing, Yul tells everyone that a female student supposedly died at this center years ago. Most of the class treats the story as another joke, but Yoon-so remembers the girl from her dream. Back in her room, she asks her roommate and closest friend, Oh Jung-won, to search for information about the center. Jung-won is talented with computers, yet even she cannot connect to the outside network. Then an unfamiliar application appears on every student's phone. The screen announces that a Mafia game is beginning. Each player receives a secret role: citizen, doctor, police officer, or Mafia. From 8 in the morning until midnight, the class must vote for someone they believe is Mafia. The player with the most votes will be executed. After midnight, the citizens fall asleep, and the Mafia must unanimously choose another student to kill before 6. The students assume the app is part of the retreat. Since Yul just frightened everyone, they vote for him as a joke. Yoon-so and Jung-won are less amused. No one installed the application, and the phones are communicating even though the building has no internet. Yoon-so brings the problem to Joon-hee. Their teacher still has not returned, the offices are empty, and every landline is dead. Before they can investigate further, Yoon-so receives a message telling her to go to the swimming pool. Several classmates are waiting there with a birthday surprise. The celebration quickly gets out of hand, and So-mi pushes Yoon-so into the water. Yoon-so can swim, but something under the surface seems to grab her and pull her down. She sees the same long-haired girl from her dream. Joon-hee arrives, dives into the pool, and drags Yoon-so out. When she wakes in the infirmary, So-mi arrives with several classmates and offers a tearful apology. Yoon-so does not trust the performance, but she has no energy to fight. A broadcast suddenly announces that voting will close in 1 minute. The students check their phones and see a real countdown. Yul still has the most votes. The moment the timer reaches 0, Yul clutches his head in agony. His eyes roll white, and his body begins moving against his will. He crashes through a window and falls to his death. The broadcast calmly announces that Hyo Yul was a citizen. Before anyone can react, a lullaby plays through the center. Every surviving student collapses into an unnatural sleep. They awaken together the next morning. Yul's body is still outside, proving the death was real. Another announcement reports that the Mafia killed a classmate during the night. The victim is found in a bathroom stall, and the blood is still fresh. The students finally understand that the app is not a harmless game. Every vote and every roll can kill someone. Joon-hee decides their first priority is escape. The group leaves the building and follows the road they used the day before. A speaker orders them to remain inside the designated game zone, and a bright white boundary line appears around the center. 2 desperate students try to cross it anyway. Their phones issue warnings, and both teenagers collapse in pain. Their eyes turn white, and the game forces them to attack each other until they die. The broadcast identifies both as citizens. No one else dares cross the line. Joon-hee promises that their teacher may still return, but his reassurance sounds weaker with every death. Yoon-so climbs to the roof searching for a phone signal. She finds none, but she notices that the white boundary continues into the mountains behind the center. That means the game area is larger than the building. There may be another route out. Joon-hee tests the edge carefully and confirms that players receive a warning before they cross. He organizes a search team to follow the line through the woods. So-mi volunteers, partly because she wants to appear useful in front of Joon-hee. Yoon-so is still weak after nearly drowning, so she stays behind. While the search team leaves, Yoon-so hears someone whisper her name. No one is close enough to have spoken. The long-haired girl appears to be calling her deeper into the building. Instead of following immediately, Yoon-so focuses on the dead. She argues that the bodies should be preserved for the police if anyone escapes. With help from several classmates, she photographs each victim and moves 4 bodies into the center's industrial freezer. Every dead student's phone has powered off completely. The living students' phones all remain frozen at 56%, no matter how long they use them. Young Won wonders whether the class is no longer in a normal physical space. Meanwhile, Go Kyung-jun, the richest and most feared bully in class, steals a ring of keys from the front desk. He discovers a locked snack shop filled with food. Kyung-jun immediately treats the supplies as personal power. Anyone who wants to eat may soon have to obey him. The mountain team reaches the highest point allowed by the boundary. Through a camera lens, they see 2 people standing in the distance. They shout for help, but neither figure moves. Even the birds in the image remain perfectly frozen while the camera's timer continues running. The landscape beyond the line may be nothing more than a manufactured picture. During the confusion, one student slips near the boundary. So-mi pulls away to protect herself, causing the student to fall across the line. The game takes control of him, and he dies before the others can bring him back. The search team returns devastated. They found no rescue route, only proof that the class is completely sealed inside the game. The remaining students review the rules. Citizens, the doctor, and the police share one objective: identify and eliminate every Mafia member. The Mafia wins by killing the other team. Only one side can survive. King Jun orders Jin Da-bum, a quiet student he regularly bullies, to find a loophole. Da-bum says the only confirmed method of killing a Mafia is the daily vote. King Jun refuses to accept that answer. He steals Da-bum's phone and tries voting with it, then physically forces Da-bum's finger against the screen. Both attempts are rejected. The game recognizes the true owner and will not allow anyone to cast another player's vote. Elsewhere, the class begins accusing one another. Baek Yoon-ha reminds everyone that So-mi encouraged the joke vote against Yul. So-mi fires back by accusing Yoon-ha, while classmates who saw the mountain accident question why So-mi released the falling student's hand. Joon-hee refuses to let panic turn into another execution. In an office, a disconnected telephone rings even though no cable is attached. Nearby file folders contain nothing but blank paper. Joon-hee concludes that the entire center has been constructed to manipulate them into distrusting and killing one another. He decides that surviving the game may require refusing to play it. Before he can explain his plan, Joon-hee learns that Kyung-jun has dragged Da-bum into the snack shop. When Joon-hee and the others arrive, Kyung-jun and his followers are tormenting him. A basketball player stands up to them and easily overpowers the group until Kyung-jun grabs a pair of scissors. Yoon-so stops the fight with the one threat Kyung-jun actually understands. If he keeps attacking classmates, everyone can vote for him before midnight. Kyung-jun lowers the weapon. For the first time, the bully realizes that popularity is now more valuable than physical strength. Joon-hee gathers the class in the lobby and presents his plan. If no one has a phone, no one can vote, and no student can receive the highest total. Kyung-jun surprisingly supports the idea and hands over his phone first. His cooperation makes the others less suspicious, so they place every device in a plastic container and assign students to guard it. As midnight approaches, the center remains silent. For a few seconds, the plan appears to have worked. Then the system announces that every player who failed to vote will be executed. One student suddenly falls from an upper floor. Another follows. The broadcast begins calling names in student number order, and each person selected by the system dies. The lobby explodes into chaos as everyone fights to recover a phone before their number is called. Kyung-jun already has his device. He secretly removed it while collecting the others, ensuring that he could vote if the plan failed. His selfish precaution saves him while classmates die, searching through the container. Ha-yeon-ho cannot find his phone because Kyung-jun has thrown it away. With no way to cast a vote, Ha-yeon-ho is executed while An-na-hee desperately tries to save him. The game does not care that they were close or that he never chose to disobey. It only registers a missing vote. So-mi votes for Yoon-ha, and frightened students follow her lead. Yoon-ha tries voting for So-mi, but the momentum cannot be reversed. Yoon-so attempts to split the remaining votes, yet Yoon-ha still finishes with the highest total. She dies, cursing the classmates who believed So-mi without evidence. By the time every survivor has voted, many citizens and at least one Mafia player have died from the failed boycott. The lullaby returns, and everyone still alive falls asleep. The failed plan changes the class permanently. Students who had been willing to cooperate now see every shared strategy as another way to die. Some blame Jun-hee for collecting the phones. Others blame Kyung-jun for secretly protecting only himself. Even friendships begin to look like voting alliances rather than human relationships. The following morning, another classmate, Lee Ju-young, is found strangled. The Mafia acted again during the night. Jun-hee is crushed by guilt. His attempt to save the entire class caused one of the deadliest rounds so far. The broadcast also reveals that the doctor used a protection skill on Yoo-jun before the previous vote. That confirms the special roles are active, but it gives the class no way to identify the doctor. Yoo-jun's friends deny knowing who saved him, afraid that any connection to the doctor will make them the Mafia's next targets. Several students blame him openly. Jun-hee even considers stepping across the boundary and ending his own life, but he stops. Dying would be easier than facing the students he failed. He decides to keep trying anyway. Yoon-so returns to the freezer to organize the growing number of bodies. A vent in the wall opens by itself, and the long-haired girl rushes toward her. Yoon-so collapses in terror, but when the others arrive, they assume her asthma has returned and carry her to the infirmary. The survivors discuss the doctor and police roles. The police can investigate one player's identity each day. The doctor can protect a selected player from one execution, though the ability requires time before it can be used again. Neither person dares reveal their identity, because the Mafia would kill them at night. Kyung-jun uses the uncertainty to rebuild his influence. When one student challenges him for hiding his phone, Kyung-jun accuses that student of being Mafia and casts the first vote against him. His followers immediately add their own votes. The rest of the class resists, but the tactic proves how easily a confident accusation can become a death sentence. He then points at Woo-ram. Kyung-jun claims Woo-ram had reasons to resent Ju-young and might have killed her after being rejected. The accusation is built from ordinary school gossip, but in this game, even a minor grudge can become evidence of murder. Kyung-jun realizes that his bullying has made him an obvious future target. He begins bribing neutral students with food from the locked snack shop. In exchange, they agree to vote for Park Woo-ram, one of Jun-hee's closest friends. Woo-ram warns the neutral students that Kyung-jun will eventually turn on them too. Today, he offers food for their votes. Tomorrow, he can lock the same food away and accuse any person who refuses him. His argument convinces some classmates, but not enough to erase Kyung-jun's early lead. Jun-hee's authority has weakened since the failed phone plan. Many students no longer listen to him, so Kyung-jun's food alliance quickly gives Woo-ram more votes. Yoon-so leaves the political fight to investigate the vent. She crawls through the narrow passage and falls into a hidden monitoring room. Screens show different parts of the center, confirming that someone has been watching the students. A shadow crosses the doorway. Yoon-so follows it into a corridor where every turn looks identical. The building becomes an impossible maze. Her messages to Young-won will not send, and no matter which direction she chooses, she returns to the same rooms. Eventually, an open door leads to a locked space containing an old photo album. It holds group pictures from school retreats, including a photograph of Yoon-so's own class that no one remembers taking. Every student's face has been scratched away except that of one unfamiliar girl. On the other side of the wall, Young-won crawls into the vent looking for Yoon-so and finds only a dead end. She pounds on the panel. Yoon-so hears the sound from inside the hidden room and discovers a concealed exit behind stacked boxes. When Yoon-so returns, she shows Young-won and Na-hee the photograph. The untouched girl resembles the figure Yoon-so has been seeing near the pool and freezer. Before they can investigate further, Jun-hee arrives with worse news. Woo-ram has received more votes than Kyung-jun. Only Park Ji-soo and her boyfriend, Cha Yu-jun, have not voted. So-mi pressures Ji-soo to choose Kyung-jun and save Woo-ram. Ji-soo refuses to make a life-or-death decision without knowing which boy is actually Mafia. Woo-ram tries to remain calm, but he knows 2 votes will decide whether he lives. Kyung-jun takes a more violent approach. He convinces another student to lure Woo-ram out of his room, then he and his followers ambush him. They tie Woo-ram to a chair in the broadcasting room and beat him, demanding that he confess to being Mafia. Woo-ram refuses until Kyung-jun produces a knife. Under threat of death, Woo Ram uses the public address system to announce that he is Mafia and that he killed a classmate during the previous night. Joon-hee recognizes that the confession sounds forced. He, Yoon-so, and several others rush to the broadcasting room, but the door is locked. Yoon-so brings an axe from the tool room, and Joon-hee breaks the lock. They find Woo Ram covered in blood and Kyung-jun standing over him. Before Joon-hee can stop the execution, Ji-soo and Yoo-jun cast their final votes for Woo Ram. His total becomes the highest. Joon-hee is furious that Ji-soo and Yoo-jun treated a confession made under torture as reliable evidence. They answer that waiting could have killed them instead. The game has reduced every moral choice to the same question: whose life should be risked when certainty is impossible? Fury overwhelms Woo Ram. He grabs the axe and tries to drag Kyung-jun into death with him. The game takes control first. Woo Ram's eyes turn white, and he is forced to use the weapon on himself. Then the broadcast announces something no one expected. Park Woo Ram really was Mafia. Woo Ram's confession had been coerced, but it happened to be true. He was one of the students who woke during the night, and he participated in killing a classmate. Joon-hee saved a guilty boy from torture, while Kyung-jun found a Mafia member for the worst possible reason. No one knows what justice means anymore. The lullaby begins, and the students scatter to hiding places before sleep takes them again. The next morning, Yoon-so learns that the Mafia killed another student. At the same time, suspicion turns toward her. Kyung-jun argues that Yoon-so identified both him and Woo Ram as possible Mafia, yet Woo Ram was the only one whose role was confirmed. Kyung-jun votes for her, and 2 followers do the same. Yoon-so's usual calm disappears. 4 votes can become a majority quickly when fear replaces evidence. Young-won asks everyone to wait. She is skilled enough with computers to recover the center's deleted surveillance footage before 11 that night. If the camera recorded the Mafia's movements, they may finally have proof. Joon-hee promises Yoon-so that he will not allow the game to execute her. So-mi, jealous of Joon-hee's concern for Yoon-so, quietly encourages 2 girls to vote against her anyway. Joon-hee and Yoon-so consider using fluorescent light to find blood traces on the killer, but they remember that Woo Ram's execution sprayed blood across several students. The evidence would accuse innocent people as easily as the Mafia. Jung-won successfully restores part of the deleted video. Everyone gathers around the monitors, but the computer sparks and the recording disappears before it reveals the killer. One screen suddenly shows the long-haired girl from Yoon-so's photograph standing near the pool. Yoon-so argues that finding the person behind the game matters more than winning it. Even if the citizen team eliminates every Mafia member, no rule guarantees the boundary will truly open. The others follow her to the pool, but the girl is gone. Midnight is approaching, and Yoon-so still has 4 votes. Joon-hee proposes giving himself the same number. If 2 players tie for the highest total, perhaps neither will be executed. The survivors reluctantly vote for him. The game immediately closes the loophole. Everyone who voted for neither Yoon-so nor Joon-hee must cast a second ballot between them. If they refuse, every player will die. So-mi votes for Yoon-so first. The remaining voters hesitate, and Joon-hee understands that Yoon-so may lose. He announces that he is Mafia. He claims he killed the previous night's victim and erased the security recording. Yoon-so knows he is lying, but the confession gives the final voters an excuse to choose him. Joon-hee receives the highest total. He sends everyone away, refusing to let Yoon-so watch. Alone at the pool, the game takes control of his body and forces him into the water. Yoon-so wakes the next morning, dives in, and pulls Joon-hee's lifeless body to the edge. She finally admits how much he means to her, devastated that he died in her place. Then the broadcast announces that the doctor used a healing ability on Joon-hee before the vote ended. His execution has been cancelled. Joon-hee suddenly breathes again. Yoon-so clings to him, crying with relief. His return also explains why the game never announced his role. He did not remain dead long enough for the result to be final. So-mi rushes forward and embraces Joon-hee as well, but her relief turns bitter when she sees how tightly he holds Yoon-so. She blames Yoon-so for forcing him to sacrifice himself. Joon-hee rejects that accusation. He chose the risk on his own, and he tells So-mi to stop targeting Yoon-so in his name. The audience now sees what happened during the first night. While the other students slept, several Mafia players woke together, including So-mi. They were told to agree on one victim before 6 in the morning. At first, none of them could bring themselves to kill a classmate. When the deadline passed, the game executed one Mafia player as punishment. From that night on, the survivors understood that refusing to murder only meant sacrificing one of their own. After Junhee's apparent death, So-mi wanted to kill Yoon-so out of jealousy and rage. She approached Yoon-so with an axe while everyone slept. The system stopped her because every living Mafia member had to approve the target. So-mi could not act alone. After Junhee revives, another body is discovered. Shin Sung-bin, one of Kyung-jun's followers, has been stabbed repeatedly. Kim Jin-ha, the other member of the group, wakes beside him covered in blood. Jin-ha washes his clothes in the bathroom, which makes the scene look even worse when classmates find him. He explains that Sung-bin was alive when they hid together. By morning, Jin-ha was soaked in blood and had no memory of the attack. The Mafia did not merely kill Sung-bin. They arranged the body and survivor to create an obvious suspect. Jin-ha insists he did not kill Sung-bin. The two boys hid together, and Jin-ha awoke to find his friend dead. The attack is more violent than any previous Mafia killing, suggesting personal hatred or an attempt to make Jin-ha look guilty. A message appears on a wall stating that Junhee is a citizen. The police have finally used an investigation result to help the class, but the officer remains anonymous. Some students question whether the writing can be trusted. If the police truly wrote it, why reveal only Junhee's role? Others argue that the officer may be leaving information slowly to avoid exposure. The uncertainty prevents the message from clearing Junhee completely. Kyung-jun initially promises to defend Jin-ha, then abandons him the moment suspicion grows. He claims Sung-bin often mocked Jin-ha and suggests Jin-ha may have taken revenge. Jin-ha realizes that the loyalty inside Kyung-jun's group existed only while it benefited the leader. Junhee stops Kyung-jun from forcing another early vote. He warns that if Kyung-jun continues deciding who lives and dies, the class can vote for him next. Yoon-so returns to the mysterious photograph. A camera left behind by the mountain team contains impossible images. The students' faces blur and become scratched out just like the class photo. As she takes new pictures, a shadow moves nearby. When she looks under a table, the figure is gone, but a key has appeared on the floor. Yoon-so's phone displays a private mission, find the game host. She takes several photographs of Junhee, Young-won, and the others. Their faces distort in every image, matching the scratched class photograph. The effect is too consistent to be a camera malfunction. Something inside the simulation appears to be erasing everyone except the girl who wants to be remembered. Only Yoon-so receives the instruction. The others cannot see it after the message disappears. She shows them the key and photograph, and Junhee agrees to help her search while keeping the task secret from students who may think it is a Mafia trick. Jin-ha, meanwhile, follows Kyung-jun through the center. He sees Kyung-jun retrieve a bloody axe and stained clothing from a fire cabinet. Kyung-jun claims someone planted the evidence and says he is trying to destroy it before the class turns on him. Cha Yu-jun secretly follows both boys. Still grieving the death of his girlfriend, Ji-soo, he sees enough to believe Kyung-jun and Jin-ha are involved in Sung-bin's murder. When they discover him listening, a fight breaks out. Yu-jun falls and hits his head on a concrete block. He is still alive. Kyung-jun knows Yu-jun can expose them, so he orders Jin-ha to help finish the job. Jin-ha hesitates, but fear wins. Together, they kill their classmate during the daytime, outside the rules of the Mafia game. Their decision proves the game no longer needs supernatural control to produce murder. It has taught the students to do the work themselves. Before dying, Yu-jun had been the class doctor. On the first night, he used the healing ability on himself because he was terrified of becoming a target. When his girlfriend Ji-soo later died, the skill was still cooling down, and he could not save her. His grief nearly drove him to cross the boundary. On the night, Junhee sacrificed himself for Yoon-so. Yu-jun understood what Junhee was doing. He used the doctor's power one final time, saving the class president instead of protecting himself. Kyung-jun and Jin-ha have now killed the person who gave Junhee a second life. The system announces Yu-jun's death and identifies him as the doctor. Yoon-so immediately notices the wording. The game says he died, not that he was executed. That means a human killed him outside the formal rules. At the scene, Yoon-so photographs a bloody brick, 2 sets of footprints, and a torn rubber pad from a basketball shoe. The same footprints appear near Sung-bin's body, suggesting that the 2 crimes are connected. A second message appears on the wall, supposedly written by the police. This one claims that Junhee and Da-bum are Mafia. It directly contradicts the earlier message identifying Junhee as a citizen. One of the messages must be fake. Kyung-jun tears it down and demands that everyone expose their roles. Yoon-so interrupts with real evidence. Basketball players use the rubber pad found at Yoo-jun's death scene, and both Kyung-jun and Jin-ha are wearing athletic shoes. Kyung-jun removes his shoes without hesitation. His soles are intact. Jin-ha resists, and the missing pad is found on one of his shoes. Under pressure, Jin-ha accuses Kyung-jun of delivering the fatal blow. Kyung-jun attacks him, and during the argument, he mentions the brick even though Yoon-so never publicly identified the weapon. Now the class knows both boys were involved. Joon-hee tries to separate them and is struck in the face. When Kyung-jun also shoves Yoon-so, Joon-hee loses his restraint and beats the bully until other students pull them apart. A red marker falls from Jin-ha's clothing. Kyung-jun claims Jin-ha wrote the false police message and planted it to divide the class. Jin-ha says he has never seen the marker before, but the object makes him look even more guilty. Kyung-jun knows the marker is planted because he wrote the false message himself. He created the contradiction to place suspicion on Joon-hee and Da-bum, then slipped the marker onto Jin-ha when the murder evidence began pointing toward both of them. The game rewards the person who can manufacture the cleanest lie. Joon-hee locks Kyung-jun and Jin-ha in separate rooms while the class decides how to vote. He confiscates their phones but promises to return them before midnight. So-mi suggests withholding both devices and letting the system execute 2 murderers. Joon-hee refuses. One of them might still be a citizen, and he will not repeat the mass death caused by the phone boycott. So-mi, Choi-mi-na, and Da-bum make a private deal. They want Kyung-jun's snack shop key because its metal shutter makes the room one of the safest places to sleep. They pressure him to reveal where he hid it. Yoon-so treats Joon-hee's injuries. She notices antiseptic on the table that resembles the substance used for the wall writing. The clue supports Jin-ha's claim that someone deliberately framed him. The class eventually decides to vote for Jin-ha. His actions at Yoo-jun's death scene and the evidence on his shoe make him appear more dangerous than Kyung-jun. Joon-hee returns Jin-ha's phone, and Jin-ha immediately votes for Kyung-jun, but every other ballot lands on him. At midnight, Jin-ha tries to escape. The game takes control and forces him to jump from a balcony. The announcement identifies Kim Jin-ha as a citizen. Once again, the class has mistaken planted evidence for proof. Joon-hee is horrified. Jin-ha helped kill Yoo-jun, but the class never voted on that known crime alone. They voted because Kyung-jun's fabricated police message made Jin-ha look like Mafia. The result punishes a murderer while still proving their reasoning was wrong. Kyung-jun thinks he has survived, but Da-bum has prepared another trap. After obtaining the snack shop key, Da-bum locks Kyung-jun inside a room and delays returning his phone. Kyung-jun finally retrieves it before the deadline, but midnight arrives before he can take revenge. While Kyung-jun sleeps, Da-bum reveals that he is Mafia. The quiet victim Kyung-jun abused for months now has complete power over him. Da-bum kills the bully, making sure Kyung-jun hears enough to understand who defeated him. The next morning, the system announces that Go Kyung-jun was a citizen. His cruelty made him easy to suspect, but it never made him Mafia. Da-bum quietly uses the announcement against Yoon-so. He reminds Yeon-woo and Yun-chan that Yoon-so helped identify both Kyung-jun and Jin-ha as suspects, yet both were citizens. So-mi spreads the same idea among Mina and the remaining girls. The 2 Mafia players are preparing Yoon-so as the next believable mistake. Yoon-so, Joon-hee, and their friends continue the host mission. The old photo album has disappeared, but the key opens a wooden box in an office cabinet. Inside is a class photograph. Every survivor receives the same message. The game host is Park Se-eun. The name unlocks memories that had been erased. Se-eun was once a member of class 2 to 3 and one of Yoon-so and Joon-hee's closest friends. Several classmates used an edited video to humiliate her and spread vicious rumors. The harassment became unbearable, and Se-eun took her own life. The restored memories do not make everyone equally honest. Some students admit they shared the video. Others insist they only watched it or laughed once. So-mi calls the entire incident a prank, while Na-hee argues that treating cruelty as entertainment does not make its consequences less real. The girl whose face remained untouched in the photograph was Se-eun. The ghost leading Yoon-so through the center was connected to her. The game has not merely trapped a random class. It is forcing Se-eun's classmates to relive the cruelty, isolation, and helplessness that ended her life. The students compare the Mafia players who have already died and notice that many had participated in bullying Se-eun. Yoon-so suspects the game assigned those roles as punishment. Na-hee urges So-mi to admit what happened and apologize. Somi dismisses the abuse as a joke that went too far. She also warns Dabum that Na-hee may reveal the full truth. Their private conversation confirms that both Somi and Dabum were involved in the harassment and now share the Mafia role. Joon-hee finds Kyung-jun's abandoned phone and damage on the door where he was trapped. Dabum was the last person known to have visited him. When Joon-hee confronts Dabum, the quiet student panics and admits that Somi and Mina were also present when they took the key. The vote begins. Somi suddenly accuses Na-hee, claiming Na-hee helped spread Se-eun's humiliating video. Na-hee fires back that Somi created the fake footage and is trying to bury the truth again. Then the system announces that the police have used an investigation skill. Kim Somi is Mafia. Na-hee explains that she spent her remaining investigation on Somi because the accusations around Se-eun no longer felt accidental. Somi repeatedly chose targets first, redirected every argument, and knew too much about the students who were being framed. Na-hee has finally revealed her own role to stop the manipulation. The survivors vote for Somi one after another. She begs Joon-hee for protection, insisting the game forced her to become a killer. Joon-hee refuses. Somi tries to expose the remaining Mafia members, but the rules make her cough blood before she can speak their names. At midnight, Somi looks toward the image of Se-eun and remembers what she helped do. Her execution begins, and the vice president dies, knowing the class has finally seen through her. Na-hee knows that exposing Somi has also exposed herself. The remaining Mafia members now know exactly who the police officer is, and she will be their next target. She thinks back to the first day, when she investigated Hyeon-ho and learned he was a citizen. Before she could use that information to protect him, the failed phone boycott killed him. Later, Na-hee investigated Joon-hee and wrote his citizen status on the wall after his false confession. Her power helped, but never quickly enough to stop the deaths she cared about most. Before night falls, Na-hee privately meets Joon-hee. She apologizes for keeping silent and asks him to help set a trap. They spray invisible fluorescent material along every route into her hiding place. Under ultraviolet light, the substance will glow on the killer's shoes. The next morning, the system announces Na-hee's death. Joon-hee finds her body and collapses. She trusted him to turn her murder into evidence, but he still feels that he has failed another friend. Joon-hee gathers the handful of survivors and shows them a video Na-hee recorded while preparing the trap. He turns on the ultraviolet lamp and checks everyone's shoes. Dabum's shoes appear clean. A faint trace glows on Mina's shoe, making her the immediate suspect. Joon-hee wants the group to vote for Mina, but Yoon-so stops him. The mark is too small. Anyone who walked through the hiding place should have much more material on the soles. Yoon-so and Young-won return to the scene. The floor glows brightly, but the footprints end near a ventilation opening. A sharp metal edge inside the duct is stained with blood. The Mafia likely entered barefoot or avoided the floor, cut themselves inside the vent, then brushed against Mina's shoe to frame her. Mina has no matching injury, so Yoon-so clears her for the moment. This killer anticipated the trap and converted it into another false accusation. Yoon-so and Joon-hee create a second trap. Joon-hee messages the class, claiming Na-hee hit a camera that recorded her killer. He says the battery is charging in the cafeteria and the video will be played soon. No such recording exists. The real Mafia should still panic and attempt to erase it. Dabum immediately asks Yoon-so where the camera is. She deliberately tells him, then walks away. Joon-hee and Yoon-so hide nearby and catch Dabum checking the device alone. Before they can secure the accusation, Young-won and Mina drag Nam Yeon-woo into the cafeteria. Yeon-woo has a fresh wound on his torso, and he hid it from Im Yoon-chan, his closest friend. Since the killer was cut in the vent, the injury appears to prove Yeon-woo's guilt. Dabum votes for Yeon-woo, and Yeon-woo votes for Dabum. Yoon-so and Joon-hee insist Dabum's behavior around the fake camera is more suspicious. Mina votes for Yeon-woo after he lashes out at her. The remaining students split into two frightened groups. Dabum claims he only checked whether the camera had finished charging. Yoon-so answers that he went straight to the device without calling anyone else, exactly as a killer trying to erase evidence would do. Dabum then points to Yeon-woo's wound, arguing that physical proof matters more than Yoon-so's interpretation of his behavior. Young-won asks Yeon-woo why he concealed the wound from Yoon-chan. When he has no convincing answer, she votes for him. Yoon-chan feels betrayed that his best friend kept such a dangerous secret. After an agonizing hesitation, he also votes for Yeon-woo. Yeon-woo reminds Yoon-chan that they have stood together since before the retreat. Yoon-chan cries that this is exactly why the secret hurts. If Yeon-woo could hide a bloody wound from his closest friend, Yoon-chan no longer knows what else he might hide. Their friendship becomes the final weapon the Mafia needs. That final vote decides the result. Yeon-woo walks into the snack shop knowing his friends have condemned him. When the execution begins, the game forces him to consume food until he dies. The announcement identifies him as a citizen. Yoon-chan crumples with regret. Da-bum has survived another round because the Mafia planted just enough evidence on an innocent person. Yoon-so, however, notices a more disturbing contradiction. Joon-hee never publicly revealed where Na-hee's body was found, yet Young-won led Yoon-so directly to that location. Young-won also discovered the bloody vent spike before anyone else, then guided suspicion toward Yeon-woo's wound. The deleted surveillance footage required advanced computer skills. Among the survivors, Young-won is the person most capable of removing it. She was also the one who repeatedly appeared at the exact moment Yoon-so found a supernatural clue. Yoon-so confronts her roommate. Young-won does not deny it. She is Mafia. Yoon-so asks whether every conversation between them was another setup. Young-won remains quiet. Her silence hurts more than a denial because Yoon-so cannot tell where manipulation ended and genuine friendship began. Worse, Young-won has been the strategist behind the entire Mafia team. Players such as Da-bum carried out attacks, but Young-won deleted recordings, designed false evidence, anticipated traps, and redirected every accusation. The other Mafia members did not survive through luck or help from a ghost. They survived because Young-won was quietly protecting them. The betrayal devastates Yoon-so. Young-won is not simply another classmate. She is the person Yoon-so trusted with every clue, fear, and private thought. Joon-hee independently confirms that Da-bum is Mafia. He follows Da-bum into a bathroom and finds bloody tools hidden in a stall. Joon-hee has a chance to attack him, but he stops after seeing the scars Kyung-jun's group left across Da-bum's body. Da-bum accuses Joon-hee of pretending to care only when other students could see him. As class president, Joon-hee occasionally stopped a beating, but he never ended the bullying that defined Da-bum's daily life. Da-bum says that shallow protection only made Kyung-jun punish him more severely later. Joon-hee has no easy defense. He believed interrupting the visible attacks made him a good leader, but he never asked what happened after the hallway cleared. Da-bum's anger does not justify murder, yet it exposes how long the class ignored suffering that was inconvenient to confront. The accusation drains Joon-hee's remaining resolve. He has tried to save everyone, yet almost every decision has ended with another death. He tells Da-bum that if someone must die, Da-bum should kill him and leave Yoon-so alone. Night arrives before either boy acts. In the snack shop, Mina hides from the remaining Mafia. Elsewhere, Yoon-chan mourns the friend he helped execute. Yoon-so tells Young-won that she is exhausted and no longer wants to play. The lullaby silences the center. Da-bum meets Young-won and proposes ending the game in a single night. With so few citizens left, the Mafia may be able to kill everyone before morning. Young-won agrees, but insists that she will handle Yoon-so and Joon-hee herself. Da-bum can kill the others. Da-bum doubts her. Young-won has manipulated votes and evidence, but has avoided personally killing anyone. He warns that hesitation will destroy their team. Young-won carries Yoon-so into the freezer and tells Da-bum the cold will kill her. In reality, she raises the temperature, moves Yoon-so into a separate compartment, and protects her. She also spares Joon-hee. Da-bum does not show the same mercy. He finds Yoon-chan and suffocates him, then enters the snack shop and kills Mina. Before attacking, he waits for messages from Young-won claiming that Joon-hee and Yoon-so are dead. Something about the messages feels wrong. Da-bum checks Yoon-so's stolen phone and sees that it still displays 56%. Dead players' phones shut down immediately. Yoon-so is alive, and Young-won has lied to him. He rushes to the freezer to confront his teammate. Da-bum asks Young-won whether Yoon-so is truly dead. Young-won calmly tells him to check the body himself. Instead, Da-bum produces Yoon-so's still active phone. He accuses Young-won of betraying the Mafia and stabs her. The system immediately announces that Mafia players may not attack one another. Da-bum's body locks in pain before he can strike again. Young-won sprays his eyes, escapes, and seals him inside the freezer. She damages the temperature controls so he cannot simply warm the room. Da-bum discovers that the body wrapped as Yoon-so is another dead student. Young-won had already noticed the stolen phone and prepared the substitution. Yoon-so is sleeping safely in a separate storage area, and Young-won has returned her phone. Inside the freezing room, Da-bum wraps himself in body coverings to survive. Hypothermia produces visions of Kyung-jun, the bully he murdered. By morning, Dabum manages to break out, weak but still alive. Youngwon's plan had been precise. She expected the cold to finish Dabum within half an hour and had already considered how to keep Yoon-so's phone active. What she did not account for was Dabum's desperation. He uses everything around the bodies as insulation and attacks the damaged door until it opens. Yoon-so and Joon-hee awaken as well. They find Youngwon in the lobby and confront her. Neither is grateful for being spared. As long as Mafia and citizens remain alive, the rules require one team to destroy the other. Youngwon urges them to find Dabum first. Before leaving, she secretly places a gift box in Yoon-so's bag. Yoon-so recognizes it as the kind of birthday present she once gave Youngwon, but the bracelet that should be inside has been replaced by a USB drive. The files contain a model of the center, including the impossible maze Yoon-so entered. When Yoon-so checks the restored class photograph, Youngwon is missing from it. The truth returns all at once. Oh, Youngwon was never a real member of Class 2 to 3. She is a character inside the simulation, created from Park Se-eun's memories and personality. Yoon-so's birthday gift had originally been for Se-eun. The friend Yoon-so trusted throughout the game was Se-eun's digital counterpart. Dabum breaks into the room and takes Yoon-so hostage. He forces her to the roof and orders Youngwon to jump. He also tells Joon-hee to surrender if he wants Yoon-so alive. Youngwon warns Dabum that killing another Mafia member could trigger punishment. His confidence slips, giving Yoon-so the opening she needs to escape his grip. Joon-hee charges, but Dabum knocks him down with a stone. Dabum attacks again. Yoon-so steps between him and Youngwon and takes the blade meant for her friend. Joon-hee recovers and fights Dabum in the grass. When Dabum finally stands, the knife is buried in his own abdomen. The game announces Jin Dabum's death. Yoon-so is bleeding badly. Looking at Youngwon, she says the name she has finally remembered, Park Se-eun. She tells her lost friend how much she has missed her. Youngwon says she had no choice about the role she was given, but she does have one final choice. If the last Mafia dies, the citizens win and Yoon-so may survive. Youngwon's body flickers as the simulation struggles to contain her decision. She steps off the roof. The broadcast announces the death of the final Mafia player. The citizen team has won. Yoon-so suddenly wakes in a technological chamber with wires attached to her body. Her classmates are alive, unconscious inside rows of simulation pods. The youth center, supernatural boundary, forced executions, and ghostly corridors were all part of an artificial reality. Two adults appear on a screen, Se-eun's parents. After their daughter died, they blamed every student in Class 2 to 3. They abducted the class and connected them to a virtual Mafia game designed to punish them. Death inside the simulation is not permanent. When a round ends, the parents erase the students' memories and begin again. The class has already endured the game dozens of times. Each loop feels like days to the students, while very little time passes in the real world. They repeatedly trust, betray, kill, and mourn one another, then wake on the bus with no memory of what they suffered. The supernatural details now have mechanical explanations. The white boundary was a program limit. The frozen landscape, impossible hallways, fixed phone batteries, forced sleep, and bodies controlled during execution were all rules imposed on their nervous systems by the simulation. Even Yoon-so's visions were clues inserted by Se-eun's digital character. Yoon-so asks why she and Joon-hee were included. They were Se-eun's closest friends and never created the cruel video. Se-eun's mother answers that their friendship made the failure worse. They knew Se-eun was suffering, yet they did not protect her when she needed them most. The explanation leaves Yoon-so with crushing guilt. She offers to accept responsibility if the parents release the others. Se-eun's father begins to question the revenge. Yoon-so recovered her memories because Youngwon deliberately led her to them. More importantly, the game gave Youngwon no suicide option. Se-eun's digital counterpart broke the program and chose death anyway to save Yoon-so and end the round. To the father, that choice means Se-eun no longer wants her classmates tortured. The loops are not justice for their daughter. They are the parents' inability to release their own grief. Se-eun's mother refuses to stop. She cannot forgive the class or accept that her daughter's wishes may differ from her own. Yoon-so is sedated before the parents can reach an agreement. She awakens on the school bus. The students are laughing and playing the same games they played before the first trip. The retreat has begun again. At first, Yoon-so assumes the nightmare is over. Then the familiar scenery, conversations, and classmates fall into exactly the same order. Unlike the previous loops, Yoon-soo remembers. She looks toward the other students and sees Young-won among them once more. Whether the mother restored the character or the program refuses to let Se-eun disappear, the message is clear. The game is beginning again, and this time Yoon-soo knows what waits at the end of the road. That's all for today's drama recap. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, comment, and share. I'll see you in the next one.